happen could make a difference, or you could change the world. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Lydia Show. I'm Dr. Lydia. Now, today, I wanted to talk to you about finding your purpose, because in last episode, we talked about Brian Tracy example where he told us to make a list, and I hope you've done that. So I wanted to expand on that a little bit more. You know, I'm going to also share with you another significant book that was quite interesting to me and has made a really good impact on my life. It's a book by Simon Sinek, and it's starting with your why. And in that book, he talks about different leaders in different companies who have made really great impact on the world and how they really started with their why and knowing your purpose. And so this is why, along with that list of finding all the things that you love and what drives you, is so important into being able to create the business that will give you the life that you want, the freedom, the lifestyle, the generational wealth that you may want for yourself and your family. And of course, you know, that's our hope with this community and what it is that we're doing. So again, I hoped you would have made your list from the last time of all the things that you love to do, narrow it down and pick that one thing that will be able to breathe life into everything else. Like I told you before, at the time when I initially did this list, it was about music and it was about creating something with my children that would be able to have a positive impact on the world. And that was really important to me. So I came across this quote too that was really important. It said, you know, there are two most important days in a person's life. And of course, for most people, it would be one, the day you were born and the day you die. And then, you know, that dash in the middle, it's whatever you become, right? But the two most important day is the day you were born and the day you know why. I'll say that again. It's the day you were born and the day you know why. I think to myself that a lot of people are going through life without truly knowing their purpose, knowing why they're here on this earth, why they chose to be here at this particular time. And I don't think at all that it's random. I also think when we come to this earth, right? This is a bigger esoterical thing, is that we come here with all these gifts and we tend to forget. And we fall into the gap of everyday mundane things, and we never really truly fulfill our purpose sometimes until it's late. And again, going back to what Les Brown said, is that that's why the graveside is always the richest place, because it's a lot of unfulfilled ideas. Okay, but today's topic, again, it's us finding our purpose. All right. So me being where I am today and taking all these little gems and lessons, of course, I talked about fears, limitations, and I wanted to share this really good story because I thought I had to be in grade school. You know, I think through my life, I've come across really great teachers, really great inspirational mentors, really great masterminds, or people that I have not met personally, but I have read their books. And they have become a part of my mastermind group, or, you know, people that have gone on before me that I thought, wow, like if I had a moment to sit down and talk to these people, they really, I take everything that they've done in their life. I was like, if they did it, I could do it too. So I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade. And I remember, you know, in the islands, you get to write essay, and you're learning to write and put your ideas and thoughts together. And I don't know, like at some point I thought, wow, like I really like writing. I really like storytelling. And I remember this teacher, and I will not say her name because, you know, it takes people like that sometimes, whether good, bad, or indifferent, to really spark things inside of you to say that, hey, I want to, you know what, you're wrong. you're absolutely wrong, and I'm going to prove you wrong. Because I remember writing my little story, and she was like, you should never be a writer. You should never do this. You should never do that. And I thought, I'm going to show you. Because guess what? You don't get to decide who and what I become. The only person that does that, it's me, you know? And we talked about the limitations previously. And, you know, years ago, when I thought of doing something similar to this, or creating a community, or even creating a podcast, or doing something like this where I wanted to create content, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, like, what would people think of me? And then that self-doubt set in. It's like, are they going to like me? Or is my voice going to be enough? Will they like my look? And everything became a thing. It's like, oh my goodness, like maybe my skin isn't good enough. Maybe my smile isn't good enough. And then a lot of people like myself, we use those self-doubt and we never even get started. But for me, what I did was I started to first, I was like, I'm going to do it regardless, right? And what I did was I started to record myself in front of my computer to try to see what I looked like, see what I sounded like, to see if what I had to say was something that would be helpful. Because again, my purpose for doing this or anything that I do in life is to pay it forward and to add value to somebody's life. And then I thought to myself, just like I told you in previous episode, like we live in a wonderful time or a wonderful age as the internet age. And I thought to myself, I wanted to, what if I am no longer here on this earth? What lessons, what gems would I have liked to leave to my children? Because again, if you know me, or if you've known me for a long time, and to all the people who I'm meeting for the first time, hi and welcome. I have 4 children. So I have 3, a daughter, 2 sons, and they were like a year and a half, maybe 2 years apart. And then I have a little one from the 3rd to the 4th. It's like a 13-year gap, right? And no, it wasn't by accident. It was absolutely by choice. It was purposeful. And I thought to myself that God, like every time I look at him and all my children, it's like, God really chose me to be a vessel for these children. I don't want to divert, because I could sit here and I could talk about my children and how I really feel about them and everything that I've poured into them. But anyways, my point for saying this is that I look at him and I always say to myself, what if I am not here to watch him grow as I have for the other 3? What are the things that I would like to leave to him? What would I have liked to say to him? And that's where it became. And I thought, wait. I really want to leave a generational wealth. And generational wealth for a lot of people, of course, is financial thing, but generational wealth is also knowledge, gems. Like back in the days is where scrolls and tablet, and a lot of us weren't able to read. And in order to pass on lessons, we would have to put it in books and all of the, write it down so that our next generation. But in this time, we can now leave videos. They can see us. Just like if somebody's away or your kid is off to college, back then it would be letters, and now you could FaceTime them and be able to see them as if they're right next to you. Guess what? They don't even have to be that far. Sometimes a room over, you're like, hey, come here. It's easier that way. That's how much technology has grown and has helped us. And so for me, I thought leaving generational wealth, it's not only financial, but it's also knowledge, and what it is that I would have liked to say, not just to my baby growing up, to my children, for them to remember. What would I liked to say to my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great, like, and so for that sparked it for me that whatever limitations that I had went out the window. Whatever self-doubt that I had that other people may have or project on me, I didn't even care because I was doing it for a bigger purpose. I thought to myself, again, it's like God has given me these children or my own little generation, my own little people to be able to facilitate them through life. That for years from now, even long after I'm gone, my hope is that these things, these videos, these lessons are able to help them. And if it's able to help them, it can help you. It can help your family, your children, your grandchildren. And I thought, why am I letting these fears or these limitations stop me? And so here I am, where I no longer cared if it is that my whatever it is, because again, God has given me these gifts and I wanted to impart them on to you. So my purpose is bigger than my fears. It's bigger than my limitations. It's bigger than anything that I could ever have imagined. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm creating this community. That's why I wanted to be helpful in educating you guys and to be able to leave some form of generational wealth. Not only that, in finding your purpose or in me finding my purpose, I had to get out of my own comfort zone. And we've talked about that in previous episodes. I am not that person that, and I told you already in the last episode, I said, I don't mind being behind the scenes and letting other people shine. I remember, and public speaking, I told you, it's not really a strong suit, but I love it. I love to be able to inspire. I love to be able to pour into people. But standing up in front of, oh my gosh, I feel like that anxiety. Oh. I remember one of the first times I was doing this and speaking to a huge audience, about maybe 500 people probably. And I rehearsed and I practiced and I went over all the things. Let me tell you, when I got on stage, by the time I got off, I don't think I even remember what I said, but I knew it was really good because everybody wanted to come and speak to me afterwards. But I was glad it was over. But I'm telling you, it's like once I did it, I faced my fears. That was the death of fear certain again. And I was done. It was it. So I had to then learn, change my mindset, and be able to stop questioning myself. I am putting everything in my content to you, into this community. And this is something else that I always tell my children. It's like when the older ones see me and see how I parent, for instance, the baby, they're like, oh, I wish I had that mom, or I wish you were like that with me. And I think to myself, whatever it is that I could have done at the time we were growing, we were in a different space, a different time. And I did the best that I could. Yes, probably some of it is unforgiven. I don't know. But this is how I feel when it comes to our elders or my mom or our parents. It's like, there's nothing I could do. That's like the so what stuff that happens to us. But what won't happen is I won't sit there, hold on to it, like, oh my goodness, like I couldn't move on. When this happened, just like the story I told you earlier about the teachers, like she said this to me and then I couldn't do anything. And from that day forward, I never did anything else in improving myself. No, I have the choice. You said what you said. Great. But it wasn't for me and I won't accept it. That's really how I feel. So from today on, I'm able to make a decision whether or not I wanted to be a public speaker, whether or not I want to be a motivator, whether or not you want to be a doctor, lawyer, Whether or not you want to do business, whether you want to leave generational wealth, whether a career that you want to do, you get to make that decision now. And it doesn't matter if somebody say, well, you will never get that job. You could hold that against them. That's too much energy you're giving them. Let it go, move on, accept only the good stuff, be grateful, and let that be your lesson to continue to grow. It's just like a thing for me when somebody's like, oh my goodness, they told me that I couldn't do it. And then you never did. That's only because you accepted it. And that is hindering you finding your purpose. Do you remember earlier in one of the episodes I told you about walls are put up to see who wants it the most? You've got to go through those blocks to be able to find your purpose and be able to say, I am here. I need to do something to be able to move this generation on just a little bit further, like a relay. When the Olympics come, I always love to watch it. And you one person run past the baton onto the next person. They run as fast as they can. They run around, and that's what this life is about. There's another great book by John C. Maxwell. And this was one of the first books that was given to me. And in truth, this is another story that I wanted to share, is because A.D. Emerson was this lady. She was my mentor back then when I started my first network marketing business. And she told me how good and wonderful I was and how she saw me having a really bright future. And of course, it was a compliment. I was eating it up and I thought, wow, okay, that's really good. And in the same breath, the next time she saw me, she gave me a card and she gave me a book. Now, at this time, I had to be about 20, I thought. And I was like, how dare you think that I am so great, but you gave me a book? Because what they don't tell us is that when you go to school, our parents tell us, oh, well, you go to school for an education and then you get to 12th grade or 11th grade or you graduate high school. And they don't tell you that learning is a lifelong thing. You think to yourself that once I'm finished school, then that's it. Or for me, it's like once I finish, you're done. No, it's an everyday thing. Life is constantly growing, so you have to learn. So anyways, I didn't have this mindset that I have now. And when she gave me the book, Running with the Giants, she gave it to me on CDs. It was a CD. And I sat the book down. I was ignorant, stubborn, and stupid. I'm just telling you, those were just the only terms that I can explain of how my mindset was at that time. And one day I just was like, you know what? She went through all this trouble. The least I could do is listen to the book. And I didn't even know what was on it. So how can I decide to write off something without even knowing? And I plugged the CD in. Running with the Giants by John C. Maxwell. And for me at the time, church Christianity, everything was like a really big part of my life. So in the book, what stood out to me was how Dr. Maxwell, he was able to pick out all these characters out of the book. Ruth, Esther, Abraham, Moses. And it was like they were running a lap with you. And out of the audience, and so a lot of them are in the audience, but one stand up and they would walk or run a lap with you. And while they're running a lap with you, they're telling you all the lessons that they've learned. For instance, with Abraham, you're never too old to start. With Moses or with Ruth or Esther, it was like one woman could make a difference or you could change the world. I mean, and he went in detail. Let me tell you, see, after I read that book, it was like light bulbs went off in my head. I was like, yes, wait. Up until that time, no one has ever explained the Bible to me in a way that was contrary to other preachers have said it to me. And so for me, this was relatable. Like, I saw it in a different light. And I took that book, I listened to that book, I shared it with everybody, even till today. And that was probably, it was a lot of years ago. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how long, but it was a lot of years ago. And every now and again, I still listen to it, because one of the reasons why I go back and I re-listen to books like Starting with Your Why or Running with the Giants, those are the books that I'm sharing with you in this episode, is that when you learn these gems and you go back and you re-listen to the book, you're probably in a different place in your life, or your purpose might have been revealed to you just a little bit more, that now you pick up a new gem within these books that will be able to be helpful at this time. There's also this saying that when the student is ready, teacher will appear. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So only when you're ready to receive this information, it will really click for you. And so that's what this episode is about, you finding your purpose. And when you think it is it, no, that's when you're starting to grow. I was talking to a young person that I was mentoring, and he said to me about finding your purpose, like, well, sometimes what if you never find it? I have a tree in the front of my yard. It's a coconut tree that I planted. And I planted it probably 15 years ago. And first, when I planted it, we had a hurricane and it blew down. We went out, we strapped it up, it caught roots again, and we watered it. It kept growing. Now, it never bore fruit up until last year. Now, when I'm telling you, like, probably 13 years, it didn't bear any fruit. But before that, I kept watering it. I kept making sure that I added fertilizer to it, because not just that I wanted the fruit, I liked the shade that it brought. And the first year, it bore just a few coconuts. The next year, a few more. The next year, oh my goodness, it's overflowing with coconuts. Now, I'm telling you this story in finding your purpose, and in you probably thinking that, oh my goodness, like, I probably will not find it, is that when you plant a seed, you can't plant a coconut and expect to get an orange or grapes or strawberries or an apple. Whatever you plant, once you make sure the environment is good, it has all the nutrients, you make sure your friends are in line with what it is that you want to do, it will bear fruit. Another example that I'd given him is that if you leave from Florida and you're heading to New York, will you get there if you're crawling? And he thought for a second. He says, yes. It will take a long time. Absolutely. If you were to walk, will you get there? The answer is yes. If you were to ride a bike, would you get there? Yes. Bicycle, bike, mopeds. If you were to take the plane, would you have gotten there? Yes. It depends on the vehicle. But if you get to South Carolina or Georgia and you decide to stop and you say, you know what, I've had enough. New York is never going to happen. Will you get there? The answer is no, because you've stopped. You've stopped doing what it is that God wants you to do. You've stopped doing what you were meant to do. You stopped nurturing that seed inside of you. You stopped trying to find that purpose. Once you stopped, the destination is no longer New York. So once you find your purpose, you never stop. You know, what's funny is that when we look on, for instance, like the billionaire list now with Warren Buffett, and if you look at their income level over time, they never started to get into the millions, sometimes until in their 40s or their 50s. But then as a young person, when you're like in your 20s or you're teenage, you're like, I should have it now. I'm 30. I should have it now. No. KFC Colonel, it wasn't until he was in his 50s, no, 70s? 70, if I remember correctly. Please, I stand corrected if I'm wrong. But I think he was in his 70s. If you talked about Henry Ford, they were all up in their ages, just like the story with running with the giants. It's like with Abraham. You're never too old to start. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm almost at my retirement age. How do I know that this is my purpose? Because it's innately in you. You've got that intuition that I should be doing this. We all don't get the same vision. And you always have to remember that your purpose must be bigger than your fears, than your comfort zone. And once it is, you will learn everything and anything that you need to do to be able to leave your legacy for your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren. I could go on and on and on about stories about finding your purpose, about people who have done it. Remember something as I wrap this episode up, is that anything you want out of this life, if you think about it, you've gotten it. I look back to see children in schools that they want like the hottest gas, right? We as parents, and I talked about this before, we as parents do whatever it takes to sacrifice to be able to give that to them. Anything that we want, once we make a decision, the universe opens up and allow us to be able to afford it, to give it to us. It'll be no different once you make your list, once you make that choice, once you stay focused in finding your purpose, once you are consistent in developing the characteristics that you need. Once you face a challenge and you say, listen, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to overcome this and continue, because finding your purpose must be so big that it scares you sometimes. Like, how in the world am I going to do this? Well, you will find a way, because we have everything. We've come here with every single thing that we need. Go out, find your purpose. As we continue, we'll be able to refine it. In this community, we'll be able to pay it forward. We'll be able to continue to share, because we want to leave an amazing legacy for everybody, for the community, for the society on a whole, and for everybody's lives that we touch. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on another episode of the Dr. Lydia Show. Remember to like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your families, and to leave me comments so that on my Q&A sessions, I can interact with you and I will be able to answer any questions that you may have. Again, thank you for watching. See you next time on the Dr. Lydia Show. Bye.